Hello and welcome back to the Fighting Talk 2 channel with myself, Mr. Fighting Talk, joined as always by the fantastic co-host of the show. Over in Casual Corner, we've got George coming to you live from the brewery. How are we doing, George?
All good, mate. How are you?
Very good, man. Very good. So just tell us, what's behind you there? What are these two big casket things?
These are fermenting tanks, so we're making some beer. And yeah, basically, if you ever want beer for fight nights, then I'm the guy for it. You want to just hit me up, drop us a message on the Fighting Talk pages, and we'll ship out fresh cans of beer to you. Perfect for the big fights on Saturday night.
There you go. He's got the plug. He's got the plug now. Prath, how we doing, bro?
I'm doing good, man. Chilling. Good day. Got up and had a bit of an early one, but I'm feeling fresh. Having a little tipple as well with the boys.
That's it.
Let's go.
That's what it's all about. Ready for fight night. And this is obviously going to be a prelim only show. And then we're going to do a main card show as well, because this is honestly, I've been watching MMA for a very long time, and we all have collectively been watching it for a very, very long time. And this is one of the most stacked cards that I think I have ever seen with regards to the quality, the names, the matchups, the possibilities of anything happening on this card is just unbelievable. But Prath, who have we got in the early prelims? Because there's some, even on the early prelims, they're starting with some huge fights, right?
Sorry, I was muted there. So prelim card is incredibly stacked. We've got some amazing, like people like Jake Matthews on the Fight Pass prelims, people like Sean Brady, who are up and comers, Carlos Olberg, who is a training partner of Israel Adesanya, UFC veteran Tim Elliott in that kind of headlining spot of the Fight Pass prelims. For me, the one I kind of wanted to highlight out of the three is probably the Carlos Olberg fight. I think Carlos is he's coming off of the Dana White Contender Series fight where he looked spectacular, had a knockout. Obviously, Israel Adesanya's training partner and someone that he can vouch for and trains with him regularly, so you know he's a beast. I also quite like Tim Elliott. I think Tim Elliott is one of the better flyweights out there. He's got an incredibly strange style of fighting, but I dig it. He's got incredible ground skills. He's great on the feet as well. So Tim Elliott, I think, is going to come up strong here. I know Jordan Espinoza as well is, I would say, a little bit more of a journeyman fighter. He's kind of had up and down fights, wins and losses and things of that nature. So I'm hoping Tim Elliott here can kind of style on him a little bit and show, everything that we know him to be, which is a flashy fighter with incredible submissions off of his back. And also, just like weird knockouts. I don't know if you've seen his style, but it's it kind of reminds me a little bit like Dominic Cruz with maybe a little bit less finesse. But yeah, so those are the two that I'm really looking forward to. Can't discount Sean Brady versus Jake Matthews as well. What an incredible fight. Jake Matthews is a staple of the UFC. Someone that we've all kind of rooted for and wanting to see him do well. He's one of those guys that you can really root for. Comes from a really good background and strong wrestler, strong striker. So let's see what we can do. I know Sean Brady is an up and comer, and I know people are very, very hot on him. So it'd be interesting to see if he can get past this test, because Jake Matthews is tough for everybody.
It's honestly, it's crazy that these are even before the prelims even start. Do you know what I mean? Some of the names you just mentioned are stars of the future. There's some stars of the past almost. And like you say, there's a couple of journeymen, but there's some absolute killers in there. And what a treat. We have someone that's very much like Dominick Cruz on the early prelims, and then you slide right into the prelims and we have the man himself. We have Dominic Cruz. Obviously, he's always been around the UFC and he's been doing the analysts and stuff like that, the analysms or whatever from the sidelines and commentary, different bits and pieces. But now he's back in the octagon and he's going to throw hands again. Obviously, I think he's had 3 fights in the past 5 years. He hasn't been overly active due to plantar fasciitis, which is obviously something to do with the feet. It's extremely painful. I think my mum's got it, so she doesn't walk a lot either. So, well, she walks loads, but she can't walk that much now. So it obviously, imagine doing that and being a fighter. I was reading an article that he had to literally submerge his feet in ice because he just couldn't have any pressure on his feet. So it will be strange to see him back in the octagon as well. And it will be strange to see see what he's going to be like. Obviously, he relies very much on his awkward, fluid, unorthodox movement as well, as we've seen in all of his fights. But George, you're pretty high on Dominic Cruz, right? You love this guy.
Well, of course, Dominic Cruz is probably the best bantamweight of all time, isn't he? Probably.
He's up there.
I would agree.
He's definitely up there. So yeah, it's nice to see him back after all this time. But I've got a thing about Casey Kenny, man. This guy is an up and coming killer, and the timeout, with that terrible injury, could potentially count against him in this scenario.
And his terrible comments against Megan Anderson.
Number one reason why she gets slapped.
Exactly that.
Obviously, outside of the octagon is not ideal. He probably should learn better. Go on Sean O'Malley's stupid podcast and start talking shit like that. But no, I just think in the last few fights, he looked really good against Nathaniel Woods. Had those fights with him, and he looked fantastic. He's built big for a bantamweight, and he's had good pedigree before he's come into the UFC. In the UFC now, I think he's 16-2 or 17-2 in his career.
16-2.
I just think
29.
Yeah, and he's kind of this is kind of one of those fights where you've got it's the leap fight now. You've got to try and get through this to try and move on further. But this is not a nice leap fight. This is a terrible leap fight because Dominic Cruz is, like we said, probably the best bantamweight ever, and his awkward array of striking is difficult. It's going to be difficult for Casey Kenny. I'm still going to take Casey Kenny, but I want to rule out Dominic Cruz one little bit.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think, Praf? You're obviously the hype man for Dom Cruz down there in the bottom, but what do you think? How do you think this is going to play out? Do you think the footwork? Do you think he's going to be able to implement a good game plan straight off, having such a long time outside of the octagon? Obviously, Casey Kenny's coming off 3 straight wins as well.
So I don't know if you guys could notice, but I am Dominic Cruz's number one fanboy, and he will forever be in my crush corner. F the rest. Now, what I'm going to say is, I obviously I think Dominic Cruz is an incredible fighter. His footwork is revolutionary. His striking is revolutionary in that smaller weight class. I think he was one of the very first fighters I could really, He stood out amongst everybody, right? So you got everyone in a very, very conventional fighting stance, fighting in a very conventional way. And Dominic Cruz just spoke volumes to me because of the movement, because of the way that he was choosing to fight. I think it was very reminiscent of a lot of what you see in boxing, but just kind of mixed with the idea of, you've got head kicks coming your way as well. So you can't just dip in and then expect to not get caught with a kick, right? So he would be dipping in, but then moving to the left, and his lateral movement is just some of the best in the division, best in the UFC in general, right? So, but we have to obviously, take note of the fact that he has lost his 2 last fights. He has been away from the octagon for a very long time. And I think the one thing that you can really count on with Dominic Cruz, and the reason why I say this is, and I speak from confidence with this, is because when he had his, the first string of the 3 ACL injuries, he came back and absolutely destroyed Takeya Mizugaki. And then also went into a championship fight with TJ Dillashaw, the PED's favorite dudes. And he smoked him. I like, a lot of people, especially TJ Dillashaw, will say, he won that fight. I thought Dominic Cruz styled on him for those first 3 rounds, right? It's actually legitimately one of the only times me and my brother have hugged, was when TJ Dillashaw beat Dominic Cruz beat TJ Dillashaw. We literally jumped, as the decision was read, me and my brother jumped up and hugged each other. One of the only times that's happened, but that's how much Dominic Cruz means to us. One of the earliest fighters I can remember watching as well. I got into when I got into watching UFC, I actually was watching WEC as well, and Dominic Cruz was a staple of the WEC, along with guys like Uriah Faber and Jose Aldo and things like that, man. So I'm excited to see him back. I'm obviously very, very nervous because I do want to see him do well. He is someone that has caught a lot of flack over the years, I would say, in terms of just from his mentality, especially when he lost to Cejudo and, the cigarettes and alcohol meme that he seems to always continually be a part of, which I understand as well. You know, he just got knocked out, so don't take the comments off the dude that's just been knocked out. That was a conversation we also had fairly recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, just Dominic Cruz is my guy, man. So I'll take him by decision all day, every day over Casey Kenny. Georgia mad.
I think the only thing, there's a lot of people on the card here as well that
we'll see.
There's big age differences. Obviously, if we move on to the Askarov fight versus Benavidez, there's obviously quite a big age difference as well, as there is with Dominic Cruz versus Casey Kenny. There's Casey Kenny's 29, Dom Cruz is coming in at 35, so there's a 6-year difference, and then obviously there's a 7-8-year difference between Askarov and George. He's actually in Crush Corner this week, isn't he, for the prelims? Askarov. Although, no offense to the dude, he's not going to be a Calvin Klein model anytime soon, but he's in Casual Corner anyway.
Just before George jumps into this as well, I just want to say that I feel about Askarov the same way I feel about George, right? He's either 23 or he's 45.
When I was doing the research and found out he was 28, I was like, damn, he's had a hard life.
Yeah, that's why I love him so much, because we basically come from the same line. We look like we've had hard lives, and you know, us people have had difficult lives. We've got to stick together, man. You know, so Askarov all the way. Yeah, no, this is I'm really hard on this guy. I really like him. Undefeated, obviously. I've said for a while that I think I do think he is Figgy's biggest problem in that division. And I feel like to get yourself to a title shot, Benavidez has kind of become like the gatekeeper to that now. It feels like at 36 years old, he's had a lot of fights. And it feels like if you get past Benavidez in the fight division, that pretty much sets you up. And it's the same in this scenario. If Askarov comes through on Saturday night, definitely he can sit there and go, look, whoever wins that fight between Figgy and Moreno in June, I want the winner. And no one will disagree with it. The guy's undefeated. He looks like an absolute monster in there. He's got unbelievable wrestling, and his striking is improving all the time. Last time out against Pantoja, who's a top 5 guy, it was just domination the whole way through. So yeah, for me, I'm so behind this guy. I can't wait to see him back. This obviously in a normal card would be, you know, main card all day, but it's found itself on the middle prelims. You know, Benavidez is 3-2 in his last 5, but obviously that's 2 defeats to Figgy. So there's not too much shame in that, to be fair. Like, really, Askarov is 4 wins and a draw in his last 5. So he's doing very well. But yeah, look, bottom line is, I think Askarov's going to win this. I fancy it to go to a decision. I think it'll just be a complete domination, all 3 rounds, unanimous decision. And yeah, the other thing as well, is fun fact, because we all have fun facts in Casual Corner, is obviously Askarov is completely deaf, which is mad, I find. I think he's the second fighter in the UFC to be completely deaf. I can't remember who the first guy was. I was reading.
Matt Hamill.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Matt Hamill. There we go. And completely deaf. And he's basically like an assassin, isn't he? He's going to get in there. He can't hear anything. He's just focused on Benavidez and killing the fucking guy. So yeah, Askarov. Megan O'Leary's me doing a lot of looking after Saturday night of Benavidez and Askarov finishing Benavidez or a unanimous decision.
And if you think about like the whole MMA maths thing, right? So Askarov has got a split decision win over Moreno, and Moreno drew against Figueiredo. So it's like, where are we going with that? You know what I mean? So it would be good to see the rematch, definitely, because I think Moreno's a different fighter as well. But Askarov is a very, very, I believe we actually spoke about him in our 2021 review about who we saw, making some noise in the future, and he was definitely in there as well with a lot of other killer names, as well as Cyril Gane and stuff like that are continuing to do well. But is the experience of Benavidez going to benefit him? Obviously, he's 28-7, so he has got quite a few losses, as you said. The past 2 coming from the champ, who's a very, very dominating champ as well. So we just have to wait and see. I'm super excited about this. I don't think I can put any bets on, because it could go any way for any of these guys, And it's nice to see a lot of younger people on the fight on the prelims as well, which is good. Not to be ageist, but it's great to have these guys have their kind of shine a little bit earlier as well. Obviously, we've got Song Yadong versus Kyla Phillips as well, and both of these guys they're under 25. They're the same age as George. Kyla Phillips is 25 and Song Yadong coming in at 23, and he's already got a very, very good resume coming in at 16-4. But I think that's going to be a killer fight as well. Prath, how do you see that going, man? I'm pretty high on Song Yadong,
Song Yadong is a beast, man. Song Yadong is a beast. I know he trains out of Team Alpha Male. He's usually got Faber in his corner and something like that. So he's got top-notch advice going in. As much as I hate Faber, Faber is Dominic Cruz fan, so I hate Faber. But I'll give Faber his credit. As a coach, he's phenomenal. As a coach, he does really, really well. A lot of the guys that he corners, they tend to win because he's definitely one of those guys that have really experienced the ups and downs of being a mixed martial arts fighter. So I feel like he is probably one of the best people you could ever get in your corner, really, from an experience standpoint and stuff like that. Obviously, you got, like a Henry Hooft who's been kickboxing since he was a little child and things like that. And obviously, they're great coaches, but I think nothing will really replicate being in there, and he's had like 40 plus fights and like maybe 20 to 30 of those were in the UFC alone. So, massive experience there. A great corner. Song Yadong is a phenomenal fighter as well. Great stand up. I believe he TKO'd Alejandro Perez very recently as well. And I think that might be in his last fight. Just an absolute savage all the way around, man. So I'm really, really looking forward to him. Kyla Phillips, I don't know as much about, and I feel like because of that, might be a bit of a toss-up fight for Song Yadong. I don't want to say that with obviously no context whatsoever around Kyla Phillips, but because I don't know him, I'm going to assume that that's essentially what they're trying to do here. We talked about it on our post-fight breakdown about kind of matchmaking and the way we want them to, make sure that they can really make someone look like a star. And I think Song Yadong, obviously China as well, like they want to break into that market. We want to break into that market. They want to break into that market and make it one of their bigger regions that they're a part of, right? They've got Wei Li Zhang at the top here, Li Jinglian in the welter division being in the top 15. Like, we've got some real killers coming out of China, and I think they aren't to be slept on anymore. And I think maybe in the last 5 years or so, I would say that I always felt like, the real top Asian fighters were all coming from Korea, right? You've got Dong Yong Kim, you've got Chan Sung Jung, you've got the Korean Superboy, Do Hoi Choi, all Korean fighters, right? But China now is starting to really produce some great talent. I don't know. I'd really love to see some great talent out of Japan as well. I'm not too sure what's going on there, but Song Yadong's a beast, man.
I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. George, how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, a bit like Prav said, I fancy Song Yadong, to be honest. I can't believe he's 23 years old and he's already had 20 fights. Jesus, man, he's put the work in early doors, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, no, but echoing what Prav says, I fancy Song to win that. Kyla Phillips, I can't remember. He trained somewhere. I can't remember where it is, but he trained somewhere with some absolute killers in that gym. I saw it the other day. For the life of me, I can't remember though. It might be with like Jimmy Rivera out in New York and people like that, but I can't remember. But yeah, no, I'm going to take Song to win that. I'm going to go with the decision for Song.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, he's gone to a decision quite a few times in his career, and they've always been very, very good kind of chess match fights as well. Very good at controlling the distance, staying on the outside, making sure he's coming in, not getting hit too much, moving away. And yeah, he's got fantastic head movement as well. So I think it's going to be a fantastic bout for both guys. And I'm just so excited that this is not even, we're not even talking about the main card yet. This is just the prelims. This is the champagne and canapes on arrival. Do you know what I mean? We're barely halfway through the starters here. And then we've got this ginormous main course that we are yet to divulge into, It's just absolutely crazy.
There's just one last fight I would love to just speak on one side. I don't know too much about the other side, but just while we're in the mood of Israel Adesanya and highlighting his other teammates, Kyla France is someone that I have always really, really enjoyed watching fight. I remember he had a really spectacular performance on the Ultimate Fighter when he was part of that flyweight, the flyweight tournament where they were all undefeated to eventually lead to a fight with DJ. I remember he had like a spectacular knockout in his first fight. So after that, I've just always thought that he was a fantastic fighter. Always wanted to see him doing well. And, I think he's had a couple of real close decisions, like, Brandon Moreno and things like that very recently. But he is a beast, and I'm looking forward to seeing him hopefully get back on the horse here.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, but on that, he's got some serious pedigree. He's trained at Tiger Muay Thai. He's now back at City Kickboxing, obviously, with Adesanya and Eugene Berriman. And he's got where he's trained and what he's doing. He's a serious, I feel like his record of 21-9 doesn't reflect the guy that he is. Does that make sense? Like, he's a lot better than what the stats say. So yeah, he's definitely one to keep an eye on the prelims.
Yeah, I think so many people
21-9, and he's 27 years old as well.
Yeah.
Make sense.
So many people, they just look at these losses and they just see the L. Do you know what I mean? They don't see the fact that it was a split decision loss, or they don't go back and watch that fight from 2013 when he was in a different promotion where it was an absolute all-out battle, and the judges were all smoking crack that day. So it's like it must be so difficult from a fighter's perspective to see this loss and to not have not be able to imprint any context with it as well. Because if you lose a very, very close decision, you're going to want to run it back, or you're going to kind of want that, stripped. Like John Jones, for instance, when he caught when he threw out the 12-6 elbow, and then obviously it was a no contest, and that counted as a loss, I believe. So is that really a loss on his career? Are people going to look at it and go, oh, wow, look, he's like 22-1. They go, oh, but he did lose. And it's like, no, he didn't lose. It was an illegal move that it's debatable. Do you know what I mean? It really is.
That's the beautiful thing about MMA. And we talked about this, I believe, on like maybe last week's podcast, about how boxing is the only people that really care about these records. We all know, go into a fight, win or lose, it's a coin flip at most of the time, right? So that's why I think MMA fans are a little bit more forgiving, right? Because there's so many ways to lose as well. Like, you could lose by knockout, submission, DQ. There's so many different ways of losing that I think we hold a little bit less gravity to those losses. I think then you kind of have to do the research into those guys and how they lost, right? So then you look at John Jones, 12-6 elbow, illegal. You look at the footage, it's bullshit anyway, right? So we take it as it is.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. But that just wraps up our prelim show. Stay tuned. We will have a main card show as well. If you're just here for the prelim show, thank you so much for joining in. Follow us on the social media channels at Fighting Talk 2 on Instagram and Twitter. And then obviously these guys have their own social media platforms as well. I predominantly look after the Twitter page. Jordan looks after the Instagram. Hit like, hit subscribe, tell your friends, tag your mates, and we'll see you for the next one. Thank you very much, boys, as always, for jumping on.